There's 10 million people in America right now that are unemployed, and their wallets are quite literally on fire, okay? Kind of like the housing market right now, but let me tell you, I seem to believe that the housing market crash has only just begun. And we already know that supply is at an all-time low, demand is at an all-time high, but in all reality, that's just caused because the government just keeps putting a band-aid on everything. I mean, when you really think about it, the real estate market is pretty much artificially stimulated right now. We have the government literally forcing the interest rates to stay low. They're buying up the 10-year treasury because investors aren't buying them up, and nobody's being foreclosed on or forced to sell because of all the moratoriums. And everybody seems to think that the market is just on fire, kind of like my wallet was just a minute ago, but we're gonna talk in today's video about why I believe that, again, the real estate market crash might just be right around the corner. Because right now they just keep putting band-aid after band-aid on the problem. So in the video, we're gonna talk about everything as it pertains to the real estate market and whether or not the real estate market, the housing crash, has only just begun. But first, do me a massive favor and just smash that like button for the YouTube algorithm. So let's just start with acknowledging what we already know, right? We have very low supply and we have very high demand. And that is one of the major factors as it pertains to the housing market, and probably one of the big factors as to why the housing market is on fire right now. The Fed has basically kept the interest rates low for quite some time now, which is essentially just artificially inflating the market, okay? Basically, it's causing supply to get even lower, demand to get even higher, and here we are. Nobody's really incentivized to sell right now. I mean, people that have to sell are definitely selling. People that want to get their equity out, maybe they bought in 2010, 11, 12, up to maybe 2015. And they want to get equity out of their property, they're definitely selling. But a lot of people aren't selling because they're not having to sell. And basically the government just keeps putting moratoriums in place so that they're not getting evicted and they're not getting foreclosed on. New home construction definitely has not moved at the pace that it needs to move for a number of different reasons. It's been very tough for new builders to build during a pandemic. Lumber's been very expensive, labor's been very expensive, and to be honest with you, new home builders don't have the confidence that they once had. And of course, the government is just passing stimulus package after stimulus package to give the American people more money, which is just going to devalue the fiat currency even more. And then people are gonna take that money and they're gonna go and they're gonna buy Dogecoin, they're gonna buy Bitcoin, and they're gonna buy real estate. Because people wanna take their money and they wanna hedge their money against inflation, and they wanna buy into asset classes like real estate. And now you have the new administration proposing a new first-time homebuyer program where people will get a $15,000 tax credit when they go to buy a new home. And remember, we already have the largest wave of people buying new homes right now being the millennial, because millennials are a massive, massive demographic, and they're at the prime time age to go buy a home, okay? And we have the FHA program, which only requires 3.5% down, but now we have the new administration proposing another basically program that is going to incentivize people to go buy their first home, which again is going to cause more demand and less supply, which is going to what? It's going to cause the housing market to be even more on fire than it already is. But how long can it really go is my question. How long can you artificially stimulate the economy, right? At what point do you have to basically just take the Band-Aid and put it on and then rip it off, okay? Like literally, at what point do I just take this Band-Aid right here and I just go ahead and I just rip the Band-Aid off, okay? When are we gonna have to do that, and what is that going to look and feel like for the housing market? So one of the big things that we actually just saw as of February is interest rates actually going up a little bit. Now when we look at the 10-year treasury, the 10-year treasury also went up as well, and basically the government has come in and they're starting to buy the 10-year treasury, which is what they normally do, to keep interest rates low, because they can't just keep interest rates low. In order to do that, simply put, they have to buy the 10-year treasury, which actually keeps it low. When investors aren't buying it, they do, and interest rates come down. But interest rates actually started to rise last month, which is a big sign that maybe we might be, just maybe, headed towards a market market that is not as hot as the market we're in right now. And like we just talked about in my last video, which I'll put right here on the screen, one of the big signs that a housing market correction is coming is when interest rates start to go up, okay? You have to remember, historically speaking, when interest rates are low, housing prices are high. And when interest rates are high, housing prices are low. Another really interesting thing about the FHA is when you go and you get an FHA loan, which a lot of people are obviously getting FHA loans. They're one of the most popular loans. You only have to put 3.5% down. But what's interesting is if we take a deeper look, what happens when people aren't making their mortgage payment, right? So people aren't making their mortgage payment, and the FHA loan program, right? The Federal Housing Administration is a self-funded program. Well, they're insured by the HUD, right? Essentially, okay? So the thing of it is when they're not getting their money and they're just absorbing that cost. And I was watching a Minority Mindset video and he talked about this a little bit. I want to elaborate a little bit more. The reality of it is they're gonna go and they're gonna get their money from the HUD. The HUD is gonna get their money from the US government, but really at the end of the day, the US government is obviously funded by you, the taxpayer, okay? So what Minority Mindset left out is how does that actually affect you in the real world? Well, it affects you in the real world because the US government then is gonna do what they're about to do right now, which is just create another stimulus plan and continue to stimulate the economy, right? By just basically printing more money. Well, the more money that they print, the less valuable the dollar is. But you've still got to pay the same amount of taxes or more to, basically contribute back to the entire program, right? The whole circle that you just saw on the screen, okay? Which theoretically means that you're going to be paying more money, right? Because the US dollar isn't worth as much money. So in the year 2020, if you paid $1 in taxes, and now the year 2021 or 2022, you've got to pay $2 in taxes and you made the same amount of money, then that becomes the issue, right? We're now paying more money into taxes to keep the whole thing going, essentially. So, that's obviously an interesting thing as well. And that is another reason why it does affect everybody, right? It doesn't just affect people that own a home or people that want to buy a home. The housing market affects everybody. We saw in the Great Recession when the housing market tanked, everything tanked, right? The stock market tanked. Everything tanked, okay? So the housing bubble, the market crash, right? It ultimately affects everybody. It affects everything. It affects jobs. It affects, real estate agents aren't making any money. There's so many people that aren't making money. There's people that are getting filthy rich, obviously, right? And so, there's a lot that goes into the housing market correction, the housing market crash, and, basically everything that is going on right now. I think at the end of the day, we just need to find real solutions instead of band-aids. We've been putting band-aids on the problem for so long now, and the reality of it is, it doesn't seem like we're finding real solutions. So I would love to hear your thoughts and your opinions on some real solutions down below, because I think that overall, in the long run, is what will, help kind of solve this unsolvable problem, right? So, look, corrections aren't necessarily bad. Crashes aren't necessarily bad, okay? The natural kind of cycle is to have, the up and the down. So to force the market to just continue to go up, 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 if anything, is the least healthy option out of all of them, right? Now, obviously, you are gonna have winners and you are gonna have losers, but, if you're watching the video, you can be a winner, right? Or you can at least be neutral to where you don't lose. There's a lot of videos I talk about on my channel of how to position yourself in the right way so that you're not forced to sell in a down market. If you lose your job, you can't pay your mortgage, your house goes to auction, it goes to foreclosure, whatever the case is, that is ultimately how you become a loser. And there's so many ways to not be a loser, right? Like having an emergency fund, having a side hustle, having extra streams of income, having a fixed low interest rate loan that you can actually afford, okay? So, you can go buy rental properties and have tenants that are gonna pay in an up market or a down market, and maybe rent just goes down a little bit, but ultimately you're still covering the mortgage, your PITI, right? Your principal, your interest, your insurance, and your taxes, okay? So, look, at the end of the day, you want to make sure that you position yourself on the right side of the coin, okay, and not on the wrong side. I would love to hear your thoughts. I would love to hear your opinions. If you haven't already, I would really appreciate it if you would take just a quick moment and just smash the like button for the YouTube algorithm. Check out some of the links I have down below. I've got a bunch of different links for you available down there. I would really appreciate it, and I look forward to seeing you in the next video.